Get ready.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Gullcast, a production of Endicott Esports and the School of Sports Science. I'm your host, Brennan Hall, Esports Coordinator here at Endicott. And as always, we're taking you through this fascinating industry with some of the most captivating people leading the conversations. Believe it or not, this is our 21st episode. And it was only a matter of time before I got someone of this important of a caliber on the show. When I talk to students here about the steps to becoming a key person of influence in your field, I can't find too many better examples right now than what this guy has built in the last few years. So if you're working in collegiate esports, if you're interested in esports in general, and you're not joining his conversations, you are missing out. Please welcome all the way across the pond from Spain, the great and powerful Ivan Kerkoc. Ivan, how you doing, bud?
Brennan, it's the most the best intro someone has given me in my life, and I'm not joking. So thank you for that.
I try, man. You know, I spent a good amount of time in media, so this kind of stuff just kind of rolls off my tongue at this point. I could probably do this with my eyes closed, but listen, I really do mean it when I say this is entirely like what we when I was on your webinar last week, we talked about being a key person of influence, not just an influencer, and what the difference is. I mean, your formula for how you built this, and we'll get into that. But it's like textbook example of what people should be doing in any field, not just esports. Heck, if you're a plumber, like that's what you should be doing. So don't sell yourself short, man. Really. I think what you do is super important for this industry. No.
Yeah, especially like when people research your company or your name, okay, what appears on Google, is super important because that's how you build trust and authority nowadays. Even like someone before having an in-person meeting with you will research you, okay, and the more they know about you before the call, the meeting, the better. Also, and the authority will make you sign more students in our case, okay. And it is true that I built Esportion through my brand, and bit by bit now what we want to do with the other team members is them doing their own micro communities, making them post on LinkedIn and X. We're building a strategy still. Attila, like the education consultant, does that on LinkedIn, but the others have to be a bit more active. But it doesn't come natural, although the information is there, and that's something you have to do. But now we're building SOPs and a clear system, to actually make the people of Esportion start posting and talking what they do on a daily basis in their work. Because also, I don't know, for hiring, it's super important. If you have your own micro community as a recruiter or as a marketing person, it's way easier. People are following you. We're talking about last week as well. How many? Not a lot of people Esportion, but it's the people that are part of Esportion that people connect with, and that so it's the people inside the organization that have to consistently
Absolutely. Well, it's also so, but you sound like a disciple of the I'm a big believer in Google's zero moment of truth research. Are you familiar with this stuff about, right?
No.
So okay, well, I can say it afterwards. It falls along with the line of what we talked about with 7-11-4 as well, with the content, and how back in the day, right, you go to Target and you're looking for a detergent. Like your first interaction with that brand is when you see it on the shelf. Now when people are shopping, doing way more research before they're making their purchase decision, even at a place like a Walmart or a Target where that is their first time seeing the brand. They already know what kind of brand they want before they even get in the store, right? And so I think that's been sort of a slow moving shift over the last 15-20 years. But exactly. And then the other thing too, because I remember last summer when I spoke at NACE about this kind of stuff, and a audience person asked me, how do you deal with toxic parts of your fan base? And I say, well, that's why it's important for your leadership, whatever your brand is, to be forward facing, because right, like the kind of community you have, Ivan, right, how you behave is the permission that you give your audience to behave in sense, right?
Yeah.
So,
Permission marketing.
and this is like part podcast, part like best of Seth Godin Tech Talks review.
Yeah.
Let's so for those who aren't familiar with Esportion, so let's wind it back a little bit. I do want to get into your tennis background because believe it or not, you're actually not the first person to come on this podcast with a tennis background into esports. So I want to get into that, but for those unfamiliar with Esportion and what you do, your background, let's just start there, and then we'll get into your journey into esports as well.
Well, yes, as you mentioned, I played tennis. I think my parents put a racket on when I was 3, and I played it all my life. Then also videos with a large part of my life. Like, I don't know, like all my friends play video games. I had Need for Speed, FIFA, like GTA, but FIFA was always a permanent like one. And what I was like, I never saw video games as a tool to build a feature, because maybe I was ignorant of like the opportunities that it could be. And honestly, I think we were born in a phase, like if I was 16 and I knew of all this collegiate esport opportunities, I would like, look, I'm gonna focus. But like,
are you kidding me? Like we were born 20 years too late, me and you, man.
And honestly, like with tennis, I saw it, and there was an agent that approached me in my tennis club, and he was like, look, this opportunities are in the US. Okay, you can get a tennis scholarship and study at the same time, and look at the circuit, NCAA, NIA, look at this. I'm like 16. I'm like, look, I didn't even know what to study or where I was going to study, but like that got me pumped to like focus on class, on tennis even more. And yeah, I prepared for 2 years. And then when I was 18, my first 2 years, I spent them in Kentucky.
Oh.
In St. Catherine College. But that university, it was like 45 minutes from Louisville. But like people,
it's fine. It's the home of Muhammad Ali. That's all you
need. Yeah. And that university, I transferred, and then next semester they closed. So thank God I transferred, and I transferred to Belhaven University. They had an amazing tennis team, one of the top in the nation. And also, it was better academically, because like I didn't start with very good academic standing, but I focused also in the US, and then that led me to get like a big academic scholarship and some sports scholarship in Belhaven University in Jackson, Mississippi. And yeah, I really enjoyed the experience there as well. And yeah, that's what I did in the 4 years in the US.
Yeah. How did it come about into let's talk about what you've built here with Esportion. I also want to start with this though, because there's so many fascinating journeys in this field, right? First of all, I guess, and you kind of already explained this, but like going from Western Europe to Jackson, Mississippi, right? I mean, it must have felt like two completely different worlds. But also, what kind of crossover does a tennis background translate into gaming? So I had a few episodes ago, Lucas Sankala from Gosu Academy, and he was a big tennis guy, and he actually found that his tennis background helped him, during his time as a pro esports player. So yeah. I'm curious if like tennis has had any effect on your esports journey.
I don't know. Maybe it's because tennis is also like very cognitive, like the timing that you have to have and moving, like, maybe that, I don't know. But also there's a bunch of people that come from tennis background that were into esports, and when we talk about it, they're like, another one. But I don't know what's the correlation. I'm not conscious. My prefrontal cortex is not conscious about why there's this tennis players that go into esports. I have no idea about it, but it is a known thing that many tennis players end up in something related to esports.
So what you're saying is, if you handed Rafael Nadal an Xbox controller, he'd be able to do all right at Rocket League or one of these?
Like everything in life, it requires, like putting in the hours. I mean, yes, some people have more talent than others and can, but there's no secret to, you have to put in the hours and compete. Of course not.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about Esportian, and where did this idea come from? Like, what are you, tell me about how you built this and where you're looking to take it.
Yeah, so
And what it
I
does.
came
Yeah.
back from the US, worked in consultancy years. I managed a tennis academy in the club I grew up in, but then I studied sports management masters here in Barcelona, Spain, in Johan Cruyff, and then I landed a job. I did it for almost 5 years so in an agency that we sent student athletes, okay, players that wanted to study a US or Canadian degree, and we got them scholarships in golf, soccer, tennis, all the traditional sports. I I covered every department because my objective since I started was like, I want to build my own agency and send athletes to the US and Canada. So I worked in event creations as an education consultant with families in the admissions department, and my last job was in the placement department of the agency, where I basically negotiated scholarships with head coaches. I selected universities to students based on what they want to study, like the sports they play, the level that they want to compete in, like all the stuff that we do in sports and fulfillment. Well, I did all the things. I worked in all the areas, and yeah, then out of nothing, like the universities that we used to work with and talk to and investigate, esports started to appear. I'm like, esports in university, what is that? And then I started, I was like, yeah, there's actually like, like now you can get a traditional sports like scholarship like in esports, like these universities. So I'm like,
wild, right?
I think I've hit a niche here that
Yeah.
I want to be, I think it's because I always wanted to have my own agencies, but like I thought I was gonna end up in traditional sports. So
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, I did like 100 and something coaches at the time, like interviews. So how the recruitment process worked and everything, because like the same process is the same, but like what changes is the recruitment, because instead of sports, esports. But like the exam preparation, placement, admissions process, university support that we do is what I used to do back then. So I transferred my skills that I had into esports recruitment. I had to learn the intricacies of like the video games that we work with. Okay, and thank God our recruiters know more than me in their video game. So yeah, so that, and I always keep learning. But yeah, that's how I got into esports recruiting, in collegiate esports recruiting. Basically, I was doing the same thing in traditional sports, and now I'm doing it for esports. Yeah.
Well, when you looked at like the niche, right? Like, hey, this is a cool opportunity. Like, what is it about? What was it about esports when you discovered this niche that said this is something worth investing in?
I don't know if it's worth investing in, because like it's a very small. It's more of like I always want to be involved in education. Like
Sure.
I'm a university professor as well. Like I do Esportion. I mean, it's like we're sustainable in Esportion, but it's not that we're making millions. Okay,
Sure.
It's something of a passion. Most of like basically, like I believe there's other industries that make a lot of more money than collegiate for now. But it's I think more like of having my own thing and having this space for unlimited creativity and learning every day more and more how to manage a team that sometimes as a professor you don't have like a lot of. So in my case, of course, if you handle a department, of course, but like in my case, I don't handle a department at the university. But so yeah, I think it's the unlimited creativity and always consistently learning, and what I learn and I apply, I can teach in class as well. But
Yeah. I make the case here a lot at Endicott that when it comes to entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial spirit, this is one of the best proving grounds, right? It's because it's a new industry, and something I learned on the pro scene, with some of the branding opportunities, like you can take swings in this industry that you couldn't get away with if you're working at the Boston Red Sox or the New England Patriots, right? Or in your case, like, Barcelona or Real Madrid, right? So
yeah,
like there's a lot of cool opportunities to do something unique, create a brand for yourself. And to me, that's a better experience than, with all due respect, some people like you and I can just philosophize in class, you know. But I think you're going to get a really good hands-on experience learning how to brand yourself by doing it yourself, right? And I think esports provides that avenue, right?
yeah,
Do you agree? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Especially Collegiate Esports, like there's a lot of smart student leaders or like student percent like involved, and I think I don't know if they're gonna continue like after the graduate in the esports scene, but like whatever they choose, they're gonna do amazing, because like Collegiate Esports, like most of them are amazing students providing a lot of value. Like it's like and you guys have the resource and stuff, but not every university can say that has an industry professional like you managing the program. Most of it is
appreciate
that. That's true.
Yeah. I once stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, as I like to say. You mentioned leader. We got a pretty good leader running around here in the lab in our background right now, updating all the Fortnite games, because we're gonna get pretty wild today. It's Star Wars Day, so
okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned leadership development. One of our I'm gonna give a shout out to my guy Liam Allman over my shoulder here, who's I'm I don't know whether I'm proud or embarrassed to say this, but like because we finished top 5 in ECAC for Fortnite this semester. I think we were the only ones in the top 20 without a full-on coach. Like, these guys were coaching themselves. So we're going to fix that for anyone listening. We're going to fix that. But like we've been competing for basically a year. So there's some growing pains.
What's your approach? Would you hire someone in MetaFi, something like that? Or would you bring like a coach to like do a GA position or a work study position? Like what is your approach?
I would prefer... I'd prefer to have like a grad assistant, something like that, someone who has familiarity, that isn't just a plug and play, hey, here's my credit card, we'll give you X amount of dollars for it. Like, I want to bring on somebody, so we have a coach we work remotely with, who's based out of Winchester, Virginia. He's a Shenandoah University grad. And he's phenomenal. But like, he's communicating with them constantly in Discord, like he has a relationship with them. Having this kind of, hey, we're gonna pay you for X amount of hours. Don't feel like you have to go over that. But he just loves to be on call and just talk. Like, I need someone who's going to, give these people attention. I'm going to put my marketing brand on here for a second, right? If you're like a restaurant and you're looking to spend on some marketing, and you're looking at agencies, like, I would imagine you don't want to be the agency's least important client, right? You want to get the A team. And I think sometimes, I don't know, does what I'm saying make sense? Like, I want someone who's gonna be actually be able to dedicate time to these guys, who can work with them, develop these relationships, and it doesn't feel transactional. So that's why I say against MetaFi, but everyone says a lot of great things about MetaFi too. So I just haven't, gotten into it yet.
A bunch of programs rely on MetaFi, but I do really believe that it's going to transition like it is now in traditional sports, with like there's a GA that is an assistant coach, and he's been a player or a player for the same university or another university, but like I think there's like most of like the value,
you got it. I'll borrow an example. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but like, this is a topic I get really excited about, right? So talking about football, I'm sorry, I'm gonna lose you because you're in Europe, but like American football, right? When I first started covering high school football for the Boston Globe, Somerville High School was on a 33-game losing streak, and they hired John Hanna, who from New England Patriots, one of the greatest offensive linemen in the history of football. Okay. They hired him to be the coach, and they went 0-11. They didn't win a game. It's and you would think on paper, well, he's one of the greatest offensive linemen in history. The guy was amazing. He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, but he couldn't relate it to the kids. So there's got to be some vibe. I mean, this happens in sports all the time, where some coach gets hired. Oh, look at the tree he came from. He knows the game, and then it just doesn't work out. I looked at in college basketball, Houston, which is one of the real hardcore like heavyweights of college basketball, and that coach never hires a guy from outside of his system. Like, he doesn't take resumes. He only hires and promotes from within, because he's got to know the guy. So yeah. So I'm more relationship based on that end.
Yeah, that's what we do. We also promote from within. Like, we started as recruiters. Like, then they have a phase until they can get like into education consultants, and there's certain metrics that they have to follow, and it's pretty a clear path, and it also motivates them, like to see, okay, I'm here, and if I accomplish this, I'm going to be here, then here, I have to achieve this, because if you start with the same salary and the same job, but you don't see more than a year ahead of what awaits for you, then in the third year doing the same thing, your performance is not going to be the same. So it's always good to like promote from within, and also it's less expensive, not because like you end up paying them less, but basically they get your values, they get your mission, you retain them for more years, and it's way cheaper and a much better like that for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to get into how you've built this awesome brand you've made for yourself in esports. When we were talking last week on your webinar, you mentioned, hey, 3 years ago when I'd reach out to schools, nobody knew who I was, and now when I reach out, like, they pay attention, right? But that's a tremendous amount of work on your part that I don't think people probably see at the surface level, but it's a lot of work, right? Like, what was your process? Like, how much planning goes into this stuff? What is your, like, for people trying to do build something like what you've got, like, what are the steps? And we can go Daniel Priestley on this too if you want, but like, what is let's talk about that. What, like, where are you?
A brand or Esportion?
Your brand.
Oh, the brand. Yeah. So what are the steps? Like, I selected LinkedIn. Okay. I do a repost what our students, are posting that are in the collegiate scene, and sometimes the Esportion website. But like, I mainly use LinkedIn, and I started posting 3 times a week, then 5 times a week, and now I post every day. And I also have a newsletter. It's named Esports in Education. So you honestly have to, like, the newsletter takes quite some time. And I do it always on Saturday mornings, and it's kind of a hobby for me. Like, I'm not monetizing it. Like, so like, you just have to love it as well, And the brand thing that I post every day is like, look, it's your personal equity that you're building, like the brand. When you're applying for a job, or let's say you're applying to a job, if you have a very engaged and a big number community, you're going to be the one making, putting what's the word, like putting the regulate, like putting, like making the either there's a company making, like, this is what you're gonna do and these are the conditions, or you're gonna be the one putting the conditions to the company. If you have a big and engaged
leverage,
yes,
leverage,
that's the word. Yeah. So yeah. And then if you're building a company, well, if you have a community, you can monetize in products or services. In a class with PR in sports, that I was like, look, let's analyze, okay, like how you can build a community, and then with that community, either you can do like a product or service to 1,000 people from your community for $100, okay, or 200 people for $1,000, okay, and then like what ideas do you guys have, so like, and also now how athletes, like you put football, I'm gonna put tennis.
Yeah.
Athletes that are not like top 200, like there's no way they're gonna make a decent living. So like, but now there's athletes that have a YouTube channel, and they teach like strategies. They create content. They have social media following. All that they can create courses. They can activate with brands. So nowadays you don't have to be top 200. Like maybe, okay, if you're top 300 and you know how to, you use your personal brand and monetize your products or services, you can win more money than the 90 guy in the world, playing tennis. So now there's no, so now there's more people that can live from a professional sport and create content. Yeah,
Absolutely. You think it's time for a lightning round? Can we do a lightning round?
yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. All right, Ivan, what is the worst piece of advice you ever got in your career?
You have to work hard to be successful.
Wow. Why? Wow, that's an interesting one. Why?
Because it's about creating the right systems and knowing how to delegate, okay, and empowering like those on your team. And now, especially that we've been selected in a sports fund, okay, that is in Abu Dhabi, and we're gonna. I don't want to jinx it, but like we're getting good relationships. It's also like who you know. So like, but that comes with time, or if your parents are like, but it comes, and it's about, it's like being there every day, boom, 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 and that's how you learn how to spot opportunities. That for me is luck. No, being conscious and being prepared to spot opportunities. So yeah,
Counterpoint. Luck is where opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting point, because like what you laid out for me sounds really intensive, right? You're posting it every day, because like also what you're posting, it's not just like a one line, hey, how's it going today? Like you're actually like really putting a lot of thought into what you post, right? So that like that's a pretty taxing thing. That
for me, it's work. It's a hobby. That's a hobby for me.
You stole my line, buddy. Stole my line. It beats plumbing, don't it? Well,
for me, that's not work. It's like, I don't know.
That
I like
isn't
to.
work, right?
I respond to every comment. Afterwards, and I'm there like, like for me, it's just fun.
It's great. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's an important part of community is like responding to every comment and just making them feel like you're part of their part of their work of art there, like part of their community, right?
Yeah, and also like it would be even more amazing if our business was B2B, but we're B2C. So like LinkedIn is like not the wall platform to get like a bunch of clients, but it builds credibility for partnerships, affiliate deals, when parents analyze us, that's great. But like there's other strategies that get us a client. But like it would be amazing if I had a B2B business, because like that would be even steroids.
You'd be a gazillionaire, wouldn't you?
So come on, Brandon.
but no, to your point though, Ivan, I swear up and down the river, for anyone looking at like breaking into this stuff, like B2B is the best baptism for being a marketer, because of how relationship intensive it is. So it gives you good fundamentals. Like I mean, you meet people in industries, and they're just trying to like pull tricks to get to their KPIs, and it ends up costing the company in the long run. But if you have a good relationship focused, relationship oriented fundamental, which B2B provides. I just think it's a good way to get baptized into marketing. So
Yeah.
Next lightning round question. What is an unpopular opinion that you stand on?
What's an unpopular opinion that I stand on?
And it doesn't even have to be esports if you don't want it to be.
You got me on this one, Brendan. Like,
We'll go back. We'll go back. What is a prediction you have for the future of esports?
well, for the future of esports, I think Collegiate is gonna grow more and more, and I see it hopefully in various video games like at tier 2. And what excites me the most is how open, the United Emirates is, because their education, like, and their schools into building esports, and how that's going to help us, to also send students to the US and Canada. So like the high school scene is not only going to be massive in the US or Canada like it is now, okay, because the rest is like nothing to compare to what's happening in the US and Canada. But I think, esports is going to be more accepted in the education sphere as years pass. So that is what excites me the most, that it's not only happening in the US and Canada, it's going to happen more internationally. Of course, it's going to happen way sooner in international schools, because the private and most governments around the world are a bureaucracy that it's a, like when I started Esportion, like I went to schools and they were like, what is this? And in the US it was already happening. So like, but it's now it's building more. So I'm excited about that. So esports and education is going to be massive in the coming years. So that's what excites me. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you have for students looking to start a career in esports?
Lots of patience, because the results are not gonna come easy and straight away. Okay. And every day, boom, 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 be there, post, learn. Okay. And if you are jumping into esports like I did, with prior skills that you can transfer, it's gonna be better. And if you plan on starting a business just straight out of college, I would advise that you work in something that you like and get really good at it, and then you can monetize it by yourself. But like starting a business without prior experience of anything is more complicated. Better, like work for a company that pays you and that you're learning. Be very strategic in what company you choose to work. Because like, for example, me, I didn't get like the best pay compared to my friends that were working in finance when I started in that agency. But like, I knew I wanted to have my own agency, and that I had to do this job and be in this departments to know everything about the process to launch my own agency. And I could potentially, out earn my but I wasn't, the out earning wasn't my, what I wanted. Like my motive of building this portion and stuff is being, working wherever I want, whenever I want. I'm not there yet, but that's my motivation, like education, students, and working wherever I want, whenever I want. So education and achieving that in life, that's where I'm satisfied. Because like, you hear like the go, yeah, let's do this, like let's achieve this and then this. But like, as a human being, you need to know what is enough, because when you know what's enough for you, that's when you achieve fulfillment. So because if people chase numbers, thousands, millions, billions, there's never enough, and you will always be unhappy no matter how much money you have. So like, it's knowing what's enough for you and just working because you want to. That's where I want to, being financially independent, that's where I'm enough. I don't have to have like billions or millions. It's just, working whenever I want, wherever I want. That's enough for me.
That's goals. That's goals. I think, boy, you can get me on a philosophical tailspin talking about this stuff. Like, I'm good. If I get a nice house by the beach, that's good enough for me, man.
In Endicott, huh?
And Endicott, right
By
across
the
from
beach,
campus.
by the university, so your
yes.
commute is like nothing.
We have we have two like offsite venues that we own that are right on the oceans, and I'll say we make a pretty penny during wedding season at these venues. So yeah, no, we had Team Secret here for boot camp in February, and a lot of these guys are coming from Brazil, Portugal, all over Europe, and I think they were used to like boot camping in like some like gaming cafe, some computer lab where there's a bunch of noise. So like, I think for them being able to just walk out and from their Airbnb and just take a walk along the beach on a cold February morning was kind of cool, So I always try to say, hey, like, hey, where else are you going to be able to just relax? We almost did they had a bad week in Fortnite here, and I almost went out and did a burial at sea. Like, hey, like Ted Lasso, let's remember the episode when they burn something, let's get rid of the bad juju. Let's just throw it in the ocean, burial at sea. But it was a little early in the morning. So, no, if we can get more into the collegiate stuff, because I'd love your take on this stuff. You see a lot of ups and downs. You see a lot of here today, gone tomorrows. There's some fears about the instability, but I do think in the long run, to your point, like this is going to be. I mean, look, new ideas rarely arrive cleanly, right? And I think for a lot of places in the United States, this is still a fairly infantile idea. This idea of competing in gaming for your local culture. Like, what do you see? What do you see as the path forward for collegiate esports?
The path forward is hopefully where it has a similar structure as traditional sports in like conferences, giving a scholarship, having a JV, a club team, a varsity, because student run, depending on the objectives of the university, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens with student-led orgs, that students graduate, and then maybe who's in charge next is maybe a skill, but like it's always changing, and there's never usually like an advancement. I think if collegiate sports can like assimilate more to traditional sports as time passes, and also like I've seen a lot on social media and stuff, like people saying like now all these former pros or ex-pros, whatever, like going into collegiate and stuff like this. If we have divisions or like a way to like more tiers, instead of more conferences and more leagues, more tiers and a more structured thing, that would be amazing. Because like honestly, like a pro nowadays, like they can't even make a living depending on the video game they compete in. So like, are you gonna make them not have a degree because they're pro or expert? Like,
so like I kind of wonder if there's a path forward just based on what Major League Baseball does. I don't know if you're familiar with their system. So if a lot of times, so what happens is you can enter at 18 years old if you're an American, right out of high school. You can enter the draft, and you can choose to sign if they draft you, or go to college, and then you wouldn't be eligible again for 3 years. But what a lot of teams will do, if they want you that badly and they're willing to give you millions of dollars, they'll offer to pay for your college tuition. If you elect to go back to college, if it doesn't, like, let's say they spend 4 years in the minor leagues, it doesn't work out, and they want to go to college at 22, 23 years old, the team will pay for X amount of years of that. So we see this sometimes every now and then in college football. right? Because like a good high school pitcher inevitably can be a good quarterback, and you might see a 26-year-old quarterback, ripping it up in college football. I mean, it's been the NFL at 30, but yeah, I mean that happens in baseball. Maybe there's something like that, like if pro orgs were to, hey, we'll sign you at 18, and if it doesn't work out, we'll pay for you to go to X and X college. I wonder if there's a deal there. I don't know.
Nowadays, like universities, the ones that are successful, IFRO programs are doing it. However, it works for them, because like there's not a clear system structure that everyone is supposed to do it that way. So like, yes, but doing it their way, it's like very different, and it's because maybe the university administration has other values and objectives. But like honestly, nowadays is whatever works for you, and your student do it that way. Whatever outside people say or other collegiate programs like say, whatever. If it works for you, it works for you. But I do wish we had like a more structured approach. But
yeah. I will say this too. Because I put a comment a few weeks ago on Twitter that got people fired up about the in-person experience versus the online, and even people internally here were kind of like, hey, like what do you, so I will say I've walked that back a little bit as far as the online experience. Just contextually, we with our League of Legends team, we were prepared to have a student patch in from our campus in Madrid, but they wouldn't allow it in NACE, one because he was across the ocean, but also he was on a different server, so it just wasn't going to work out.
Was he a coach or a player?
He was a player.
Okay, but if he's a coach, why not?
If it's a coach, oh God, no. I mean, yeah, like even so, the analogy I would also use, like in football, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, okay, they won the Super Bowl. It's one of the best defenses in a long time. Their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, right? A lot of times the coordinators will sit in the press box, way up in the stands, right, so they can get a better view. Like, do you hold it against Vic Fangio, the game plan he called, because he wasn't on the field talking to the players? No, he's up in the press box and he's talking to them via headset, or down the field they'll have a set of phones, and they'll pick up the phone and call to the press box to talk to him, right? Like, I think you can get a lot done remotely. I mean, the fact that we're doing this right now from 6 hours away from each other, okay, like our 6 hour time zone difference, right?
Yeah,
it very much speaks to that. Yeah, I think coaching, God, I don't. You can get a lot done, even like building relationships, having a strong, intimate relationship with someone entirely virtually, coaching wise, right?
If the talent is there, like,
oh my God,
and you can be flexible, amazing. Because like, not everyone, especially an international student coach that we had a few that we put in programs. First of all, like there's only a handful of programs that are able to get online students, so that's right. Why. But like, honestly, like if you have an amazing coach, let's put it from Spain as an example, and he can't travel because he has a family, or he has to maintain his mom because whatever, okay, he can go in person, but like if he's a coach and he can work an average of 20 hours a week, get some scholarship while he does his MBA or his bachelor's degree, why not? Okay, but I also get the in-person experience is way much better, but not always students can afford that privilege, But yeah, it's always there's no right or wrong. It's just perspective.
Definitely.
So I think every university has to do whatever works for them.
Yeah. It's like and Endicott has been kind of more traditional with that, and I think sometimes, like, okay, I've had a couple times where I got a kid sick at home, and I just got to do a remote class.
Let me pass you there, but Endicott is not struggling with getting students, so like
no, we're not.
They can be like, no, we don't do online.
We're doing okay.
It works like this, Okay. So
We're doing all right. And
yeah, yeah.
I will say our acting president right now, Dr. Brian Kane, one of our biggest supporters on campus. He himself plays Resident Evil at night on his Xbox. So yeah, we're in a good spot here. And I mean, some of the I know you've met some of my colleagues at Endicott. I mean, I think you get a good vibe, I think, from this place, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I and just to add like, so one of my good friends is actually the men's basketball coach at Fisher College, which I know you have some familiarity with. He actually, two of his assistant coaches are remote analysts based out of Florida. So he sends them the film and then they analyze it and then they get on the call with the kids, right? And they're generally among the highest scoring teams in the country in basketball. So I'd say he, and because he's a friend, I'm gonna go to bat for him. He's a great guy on a personal level. So like, he's a good coach. Vice wrote about him years ago because at one point he was fronting a punk rock band while also coaching basketball. So, but no, even here locally, college hockey, American International College in Springfield, which was a real upstart Division I program. They're kind of sundowning the D2 as a hockey program, but like, they're a school that was in a different situation budget wise. They had to be creative, if you know what I mean. And they did most of their work on Huddle, because they had one coach living in Worcester, an hour away from campus, and they had two other coaches living in Connecticut. So they would actually send the film to each other through Huddle and then just have a group chat and figure it out that way, right? That's just a matter of efficiency. Because if you had to force these guys to sit in a room in Springfield, you'd be wasting a lot of people's time. So,
Yeah.
no, it's a good discussion that brings out a lot of spirited opinions, but, I think, if there's guardrails in place, I'd be for it. Like, I think one of the things that we need is a little more of a guardrail system, whether that's divisions, tiers, whatever. But right now it's the Wild West, and so sometimes that can be frustrating from my
Yeah.
perspective. So
But eventually we'll have to all
yeah,
be in a structure that I'm saying we, but I'm like
yeah,
external. I'm just focused on recruitment,
yeah,
but like I think universities have to follow a structure, the collegiate programs that they all agree on to make it way more efficient. And also for the esports directors or the head coaches to also have a bit more work balance, life.
What is work balance? Hey, honestly, this is the most fun job I've had in 10 years. To your point, yeah, I'm putting in, burning candle at both ends, whatever. My wife's used to this stuff, but
Yeah.
man, it does not feel like work. Okay.
When I'm relaxing sometimes and I feel bad because I'm not doing more, and honestly, it's like it's not work. It's because I love to do it. So why
Yeah.
not do it? Why am I gonna watch Netflix if I can, learn more about something to improve a process? But it's what I like. So like I
Yeah.
don't feel bad for like uh working more instead of it's for me most of it is a hobby, especially like building a brand. For me it's a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. With less 2 minutes, I want to get back to brand building. I want to ask you because you teach this a lot, and for someone who's looking to be a better marketer, someone who's looking to build a better brand for themselves, like what is the curriculum you recommend? Are there certain I know we've talked about Daniel Priestley, we've talked about Seth Godin. Like what is like? Are there's certain things like certain books, certain curriculum you would recommend?
I'm gonna say it again.
Uh-oh.
Read more than 5 times Key Person of Influence. More than 5 times.
Key person of influence, Daniel Priestley. I
So
use it
it's
here in
put
my
it,
class.
market, whatever, it's like the more because like it's like reading one book about one topic is like eating. You don't eat once in your life. You have to continuously, eat. So like you need to like absorb it pretty well until you can also apply it and like read, apply, read it again, apply. There's always new things that you you will learn from the same book, and boom, boom, boom. Just focus on that book. Because like, yeah, you can read like 5 different books about building your brand, but like if you just focus on one book and read it more than 5 times, trust me, and especially that book, that's it.
I'm going to throw one at you. I don't know if you ever read this one. Stephen King on writing.
Last week you mentioned it. It's on my
there we go.
read list.
Yeah. So here's why I say that, right? When I first got into marketing, I took some e-learning stuff, and I learned very quickly because these guys kept mentioning Stephen King, and I'm like, I'm going to get more out of reading Stephen King than I am actually reading any book on marketing copywriting. And from my background, like I was in journalism for a long time. You could sit me down 10 minutes before deadline in the Boston Bruins press box, and I could read 750 words, like with my eyes closed. But it was a lot harder for me to figure out the right 4 words for a brand statement for a new product we were launching at Huddle. Like I'd spend weeks on, right? So, but like, because Stephen King teaches you about the power of being really judicious with what words you use to forward a narrative, and cutting out passive voice, which is a lot of marketing copywriting. So like, because everyone wants to use AI now for hey, just copy and paste and post and goes. But the problem is a lot of the copy that AI gives you, it feels very salesy, feels very car salesy, because again, they're aggregating from the general masses, right? And you don't learn how to develop your own writing style. And so learning how to edit yourself, how to cut you, because that's so hard to do. We're all so in love with what we would write, right? So kill your idols, right? He says it a lot. Kill your idols, even if it breaks your heart, kill your idols. So I think that's a really good exercise for people to learn. And so I think Stephen King on writing, it's the best book I think ever on the craft of being a writer. So but yeah, that's my recommendation for you, Ivan. And then maybe we can have a little book club come back in a few weeks and have a cup of coffee or something virtually. I don't know.
Honestly.
So
right now I'm reading Chris Voss on like how to negotiate, like the Chris Voss. Yes, it's like an ex FBI agent.
Goodness.
He now has a consultancy to like teach top CEOs on how to negotiate. Yeah, he's a guy from the US, and it's very interesting.
There's a market for that now because I actually give my esports students or some of my esports players Jocko Willink extreme ownership, and so Jocko Willink is an ex-Navy SEAL, Iraq war hero who now runs a consulting business, who like advising business leaders on leadership advice. So there's a market for that from that world, at least in this country. So but there's a lot of cool lessons from there. So Ivan, how can people stay in touch with you? What is the best way to, see all of your work?
Add me on LinkedIn.
Add him on LinkedIn. You heard it.
I'm on LinkedIn. I always, for now, I'm not I might be, from your perspective, I keep personal influence. I'm not an influencer. So like I read all my DMs and I answer them. So like, if you want to reach out to me, like add me on LinkedIn, DM me, or like, basically that.
When do you sleep, man?
When do I sleep? That's sleep, number 1, number 2, exercise, and number 3, eat. Sleep, no matter what. Okay, like it's my like.
How do you have time for that?
How I get my like energy, consistent energy. So that is something that I'm not gonna sacrifice, never. And then exercise. I exercise every day. Either I run or swim, or do some calisthenics. And then eat. 70-80% is healthy. The one is some cheat days, but yeah, in that order. So yeah.
Cool. Well, Ivan, this has been a fascinating conversation. I always enjoy my time with you, man. And we'll talk some more in the future. But I hope you got a lot out of this conversation as much as I did. This is always such a fun conversation. For now, make sure if you aren't subscribed yet to Gullcast, make sure you do it and be a good friend and leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind. You can find us on all episodes on Spotify and on YouTube. Just look for Gullcast Endicott Esports. We've had a lot of great thought leaders in these first 21 episodes. Ivan among the best. So, but make sure you get caught up on all past episodes and leave a 5-star review. For now, for Ivan Kerkoc, this is Brendan Hall signing off saying, thanks for listening.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Endicott Esports. See you next time.